It's February 2026, and try renting a high-end GPU right now. I mean, just try.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Right. Between the AI boom and Apple Vision Pro basically forcing everyone into spatial computing, the global supply of compute is just absolutely choked. You go to AWS or Google Cloud, and they're expensive, bottlenecked, or, just putting you on a wait list.
It really is the defining resource crisis of the decade. We have effectively hit a wall where centralized infrastructure just physically cannot scale fast enough to meet the demand for AI training and photorealistic rendering.
Which brings us to the stack of reports we're breaking down today for this deep dive into the render network. Now, the old elevator pitch used to be, well, Airbnb for GPUs.
Simple, catchy.
Exactly. But looking at this exhaustive 2026 analysis, that feels pretty reductive now. We're actually looking at a mature, a decentralized physical infrastructure network. And our mission today is to understand how this network is trying to beat those centralized cloud monopolies.
Right, because the sources suggest render has really evolved into a utility layer. They aren't just connecting people anymore. They're trying to function as the invisible operating system for the entire 3D internet.
But to get there, they had to make some pretty hard technical choices. The migration from Ethereum to Solana back around 2023 really stands out in the timeline. Critics at the time said leaving Ethereum's security layer was risky, but looking at the performance data, it seems completely unavoidable.
It was entirely a latency decision. Ethereum is a secure settlement layer, but it is slow and expensive. If you are processing a depend workload, millions of microtransactions for rendering frames in real time, you simply cannot wait minutes for a block to confirm.
Solana offered that sub-second finality. It basically turned render from a slow store of value into high-frequency rails.
And that speed is exactly what enables the economics to actually work for a CFO at a major studio.
Right, which brings us to the Burnham equilibrium, or BME. This is the part that usually confuses people, but it really is the linchpin for enterprise adoption. A studio pays in regular, dollar-stable, predictable fiat.
Because a massive studio like Disney cannot hold a volatile crypto token on their balance sheet just to pay for rendering services. It might drop 20% overnight.
So the BME acts as a volatility buffer. Behind the scenes, the protocol takes those dollars, buys render tokens off the open market, and burns them. They are just gone, removed from the supply entirely.
Meanwhile, the node operators, the people actually renting out their GPUs, are paid in newly minted tokens.
So the big takeaway here for you listening is the supply shock potential. If the dollar value of the work being done exceeds the value of the new tokens being printed, the asset becomes deflationary. It divorces the volatile crypto price from the stable cost of services.
It creates value based on actual commercial utility, not just speculation. And we know from the reports that utility is happening. They highlight that Render powered the motion graphics for Super Bowl LIX just this month.
And the Apple Vision Pro integration. This connects right back to the latency point. Foveated streaming rendering only exactly where your eye is looking requires edge computing.
You physically cannot do that with a server farm 3 states away.
The speed of light is literally too slow.
That is where the decentralized network wins. It's geographically distributed. But we have to address the major pivot here. Render started with 3D art, but now they are chasing the AI training market.
This is proposal RNP021, the dispersed subnet.
Correct. They realize consumer gaming cards are great for Blender, but they are terrible for training massive large language models. RNP021 was the incentive shift to bring enterprise-grade hardware, specifically NVIDIA H100s, onto the network.
But this is where I get a bit skeptical looking at the competitive landscape in these documents. Networks like IO.net and Aether technically have more raw GPUs available, and often at lower prices.
They do.
So if compute is just a commodity, why hasn't Render been totally undercut and crushed?
Because compute isn't just a commodity, it's about the workflow. That is Render's true note. The competitors are selling raw horsepower, where you have to configure messy Linux servers yourself. Render is integrated directly into the software artists already use: Octane, Redshift, Blender.
So it's just the path of least resistance. The artist clicks Render inside their app, the network handles the rest, and they don't even know they're using crypto.
Precisely. Sticky software beats cheap hardware.
However, there is a final boss mentioned in the risk analysis, Day 2 observability.
The ultimate trust hurdle.
Exactly. If you are training a proprietary AI model or rendering an unreleased Marvel movie, do you really trust a decentralized network of random nodes with your intellectual property?
Day 2 observability is just a fancy term for asking, can I prove my data wasn't stolen or tampered with? Until they solve that compliance piece, the biggest players might stay on the sidelines.
Which leads to a provocative thought I want to leave you with regarding this great compliance divergence we are seeing, with the EU tightening screws while the US remains fragmented.
As we enter the era of hybrid finance, it really is the trillion-dollar question.
Will decentralized networks like RNDR be regulated as money transmitters and choked off? Or will they simply become the invisible backbone of the 3D Web 2 essential and 2 distributed for any one government to switch off?
Something for everyone to think about.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.